The biggest battle we will ever have to face is the battle between you and you. It's the battle of taking your mind to that limit and then breaking through. On the Mindful Experiment podcast, we will share concepts, universal laws, and interviewing individuals who have done just that, who have gone through the dark times and through those moments allowed their light to shine bright. I'm your host, Dr. Vic Manzo, and I want to thank you for listening to the podcast and taking this journey with me as we discover different avenues to break through those limits, expand your reality, and evolve into the person you desire to be. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, and welcome. This is Dr. Vic, and you're listening to The Mindful Experiment. This week, as we always have each week, interviewing an individual who is really a pioneer in what they're doing and something to share to help create more remembering the greatness of what you have within you and connecting better to source. Today, we have Niraj Naik in we're interviewing, and Niraj is he's a really interesting fellow. You're going to get to pick that up on him really quick. Really a very smart, intellectual guy and really brings the science behind things. He's a certified pharmacist who turned holistic health and breathwork expert. He cured himself from ulcerative colitis. He is dedicated to helping others restore their health and improve their overall quality of life with holistic practices and lifestyle changes where stress and gut health is a factor. He's a professional musician. Niraj has produced music for Wim Hof and Marisa, and his therapeutic music is used in wellness centers and spas internationally. Niraj is also the founder of SOMA Breath, the global breathwork movement taking the world by storm. He's a Mindvalley and HayHouse author, creator of the world's most viral infographic, a serial entrepreneur, and one of the world's most sought-after spiritual ceremony facilitators. It was really a joy to have him on the show. We talk about hypnosis, how you're programmed at an early age. We talk about brainwave entrainment in music and how it can help. We tap into a little bit of ecstatic dance and how movement raises the vibration of what you are. We dive into the neuroscience behind manifesting and the neuroscience behind breathwork itself and how does it actually been proven to work and how it implements and changes your life. We talk a little bit about his history in holistic health and his journey from going to a pharmacist to going into holistic health and breathwork overall. This was really an uplifting episode, especially for myself. I loved the interview. I geeked out on it. These are things that I love to share. If you've been a listener for a while, you know this is something that's going to support a lot of what I've shared, and he brings it in a different perspective, which I greatly appreciate. It was a joy to have Niraj on. I know you're going to love this episode. I'm so excited to have you listen. So I'm going to shut up right now, and we're just going to turn it over. And this is Niraj Naik. So Niraj, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Victor.
I'm excited to have you on. Your background, what you've done with your life, the things you're doing, it is everything I do on the daily. So I'm really excited for the listeners to really hear you talk about the different things that you do, the why, and so much more. So again, just thank you for being on. This can be a fun show.
Yeah, fantastic.
So what I usually like to do in the beginning is kind of give a little bit of a background to see how you got to where you are today from where you were before. And so do you mind sharing a little bit how you took it from being a certified pharmacist and you were in that world, and then you totally went to the opposite side? I know some people, I have someone who in my town he used to be a pharmacist, and he's like, I'm trying to unveil my soul and get it clean now from what I've been doing. Not saying you would say that, but that's what he said. So how did you make that change, and how did that process come about?
Well, the funny thing is, actually, pharmacy, the intention of pharmacy and pharmaceuticals it comes from the lineage of the great alchemists who were experimenting with turning lead into gold, which is really a metaphor for the inner world aligning with the outer world. But that's a whole nother story. But the idea was that, there was a time where everyone was a herbalist. So people would stock all these like magical potions, elixirs, claiming to help you, right, in for various conditions. But then at one point, that got out of hand. The marketing of pills and potions got crazy, and the idea was to try and standardize things, to make things predictable, and so that you'd always get the same outcome, and it would be able to work for curing things, such as there was a huge outbreak of all these the Black Plague and all that stuff, which and smallpox, which vaccines did an amazing job of, where science got taken in favor of mysticism, and then things went the wrong way for that because they realized they can make tons of money, and in the end, pharmacy turned into this money-making scheme and went away from its original agenda. Its original purpose was pure, was a positive thing. And when I became a pharmacist, I mean, the original reason I became a pharmacist was, there's many little reasons, but the main one was obviously I thought it was a caring profession, just supposed to help people. And as soon as I started working in the pharmacy, within the first week, I saw the scam for what it is and how this original intention had been corrupted. And you could see, just by, all you have to do is like play a role game and put yourself into the position of the biggest corporation, pharmaceutical corporations in the world, as the chief marketing officers, and they're given the job, you have to increase our bottom line. So what they're going to do, they're going to eliminate all cures, things that cure patients, because you don't want to research cures, because once you cure someone, what are you going to do then? Because that's it, customer's gone. You want to create a customer for life. So the clever pharmaceutical industry put all their interest into trying to fix chronic health issues, which cannot be cured by drugs and linear scientific reductionist medicine, because human beings are not linear, and chronic health issues are caused by a plethora of different reasons, not just chemical imbalances. And so with that said, the whole chronic health industry is a sham, effectively, when it comes to pharmaceuticals being involved. And the entire industry has caught on to the fact that you manipulate chemicals within the body, you can pretty much create a customer for life, if that's all you do, because all you're doing is treating symptoms, then you're not going to the cause. And the cause is all of those lifestyle things that we do that lead to that cause. So ultimately, I felt really disillusioned working in the pharmaceutical industry, and I saw these people going away with shopping bags full of drugs, not getting better. So what did I do? I took matters into my own hands. I actually went to a few seminars. One of them was this Tony Robbins one, because I was super depressed. I just lost my interest in my career, my life. I was down in my sorrows every weekend, as a lot of people do. And I was pretty much hanging around with a peer group of people who hated their jobs. So, we were all just like lost, looking for answers. And Tony Robbins happened to give some amazing tools, but on the last day it was really enlightening, because he talks for the first time I ever heard anyone talk about the fact that you can use diet as a means to change your health and cure and reverse disease. And he also talks about various other lifestyle things and how it relates to the body. That was the first time ever I'd heard any of this. And you think I came from a pharmaceutical education, where you'd think you'd learn about these things, and not at all. Didn't learn any of it. Or at least I skipped the lectures on it, but I don't think there were any. And so I decided it would be a fun game to try and apply this knowledge in the pharmacies on my patients. So I took a bit of time out to actually do some research, and came up with this very simple system of delivering healthy shopping lists to patients, prescribing them for conditions where I felt a lifestyle intervention would make a difference. And those who followed my advice, followed the shopping list, went over to the supermarket, bought the stuff that I recommended, got better. Within a couple of weeks, I had amazing testimonials. And it really made me confirm to me that Hippocratic oath that all doctors are supposed to swear by, which has been ignored. Let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food is like, proof right there. I saw it. I saw people changing very dramatically by changing their diets. But one thing that really I realized as well was how much people are conditioned into lifestyles and habits that are not empowering. So you may give somebody a bit of advice, but very often people are reluctant to change. And that really starts to make me realize the importance of understanding the mind, the subconscious mind. But anyway, that stuck with me until actually I worked my way up to the head office of one of the biggest supermarkets in the world. And I came up with a healthy shopping list system, which would have run on their website. It would have helped millions of people. But they basically, I think they saw that it was too renegade as an idea. They even used the word renegade. And that's why I've used it as my website now, the Renegade Pharmacist. And it got shelved. And this idea was like educating people more on the types of diets that are good for them, getting them to cook their own foods and buying healthy vegetables and less factory-based foods. So I realized that, that it's the factory-based foods that's a problem. So if you can switch from factory-based, factory-produced stuff, simple diet, it's not like anything complicated. You just literally are swapping factory processed foods for just normal real foods, and that's all you need to do to start getting healthy. You can get actually very healthy just by making that switch. And yeah, so anyway, so I actually then became super disillusioned because I felt there was no hope for humanity whatsoever. I didn't believe God exists. I became an atheist. I lost all my kind of hope, and boom, I got zapped with this chronic illness called ulcerative colitis. I was shitting blood like 40 times a day. And then I just surrendered to the healthcare system. And I listened to the gut health specialist, who was like extremely obese, like who was shoving like a cam up my bum to tell me that I had ulcers in my colon, and then telling me that as well that the diet has no influence, stress doesn't have any influence. The only thing that's proven to help with what you've got is the drugs, or surgery. So for months I went through hell, like trying out the conventional treatments. Nothing was working. And then I was in this really desperate state. And they say that God stands for gift of desperation. And literally I was praying, and in my most desperate moment, because I was told you either be a guinea pig for a drug that hasn't been tested yet, or have your colon removed. And luckily somebody came to my rescue, Swami Ambakananda, who gave me a third path. And she said to me that if you can heal yourself from this chronic illness using these ancient techniques from pranayama, Ayurveda, yoga, you'd be an amazing role model to other people with your background, your caring nature, and all this stuff. She was completely right. Within a few months, I had healed myself completely. And that began my journey of trying to figure out what is it, what's the mechanics, what's the science behind what worked, and how can I use this to help other people. So that's what triggered me into doing what I'm doing now.
I love that. And it's funny when doctors say stress doesn't play a role in any of this, and you could see the disconnect with that, because the top Harvard medical docs and a lot of the science that comes through has proven that stress causes 99% of all the things we deal with. I find that very fascinating, and
it stresses me out just thinking this. It's crazy, right?
Because you got to understand, in my world, you brought up a great point when you were talking about how big pharma, they want to eliminate all their competition so they can maximize their profits.
Yeah,
and the chiropractic profession is the biggest profession that's always under attack. It's been under attack for over 100 years. We're under attack more than ever right now. And it's because we pull people away from them. We not take away, but we have science to prove in 7 years of being adjusted and being under regular care, the reduction of pharmaceuticals are up to 85%.
Wow.
It's just crazy. Now for them, they're like, we gotta dismise them. Let's them just think we're back pain, neck pain, and headaches. That's because then if we get people just to think that, they won't do anything else. And
Yep.
so I commend you with that. And especially the Hippocrates, right? The father of medicine, right? This is, I think this is the disconnect of medicine. And I know you can agree. Let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food. And in chiropractic, we use one of his other quotes that's really big too. I don't know if you've ever heard of this one. Look well to the spine for the cause of disease.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so he understood these things. He understood that food was just as essential. I mean, if you think about it for the spine, that's the nervous system. Nervous system controls every single function in your body. So from those two quotes, I always find it funny that, now we're in the current model era. I wonder what Hippocrates would think of medicine as today.
Oh God, it would be like hypocrites.
Yeah, right. Tell me about it. That's what I usually say. So, but what a transformational journey for you. And then, going through that surrender process, right? You had the ulcerative colitis and so forth. Was there anything was it just a prayer? Was it, what did you just have to trust outside yourself? Was it, assuming less surrender is a letting go. Was there anything else you want to just add because I know some people go through that. I know there's people, some of the listeners who I know of, some are suffering from something like that. And so when they're going through that, how did you just say, enough's enough, I have to trust?
I was just broken, I was so broken. I couldn't do anything else. It was literally a case of I was forced into it. It wasn't like I was a deeply spiritual person or anything like that. I was very, very left brain, very analytical in my mindset. And it was really this moment that pushed me into the more spiritual way of looking at the world. The best thing that could ever happen to me.
I love it. Sometimes our most of the time in this life, at least, our darkest moments bring our greatest light, right?
Yeah, they call it, was it the dark night of the soul?
Yes.
So, yeah, I had one of those. I call it like the judgment day. It's the judgment day where whatever decision you make on that day will dictate whether you go to hell or heaven on earth. And that was literally it. It was one day, one decision.
Yeah, it's amazing how that transforms things. So moving forth now, what this has been taken care of. You turned to holistically, and you've shifted gears that way. What are things that, you talked about, just the foods to consume and I actually interviewed someone a couple months ago and they were saying, and which it does make sense after I thought about it. I don't know about, you're in the UK, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I don't know how your groceries.
At the moment I'm in Barcelona, but I'm from the UK.
Oh, cool. Barcelona. I'm going there in September. Finally getting myself, I've been wanting to go to Spain for 2 years, finally persuaded my wife, we're going.
I love it.
But long story short, I don't know how the grocery stores are there, but here in America, all the foods that you probably should be consuming are on the outside of the store.
Oh, really?
Produces, then you got the meats, then you have the fish, and then you have dairy. It depends. I'm questionable about dairy, but all like the most normal foods that we would find if we were farmers are usually on the outside, and all on the inside, the middle is usually all the processed stuff.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But so let's get into then some of the stuff that you do. I know, so you've done the nutrition, you've done stuff like that, you've done Ayurvedic medicine, you've done pranayama and all that. Have you utilized things like breath work and things along those natures too? What have you also have helped in the journey where you're at?
Yeah. So the big catalyst for me was a complete lifestyle change. I couldn't say one over the other, but pranayama was the foundation, and pranayama means energy control. It's a school of breathwork from India, ancient India, and it's a branch of yoga. So yoga has several branches, and the hatha yoga, which is all about the body, is basically similar to tantra. Tantra is another word for it. Tan means body. So from that is all of the practices that you should do to make the most out of your body, your health from your body. And the idea is that your body and mind are one, there's no disconnect, and that your inner world becomes your outer world. So using pranic techniques, pranayama techniques, you can control the autonomic nervous system and the energy that's produced within your body. So prana literally means energy control, and breath work, breathing, is the hack into our nervous system. It comes from an old ancient story from the Rig Veda. Rig Veda is one of the most ancient religious manuscripts. And in there it talks about this time, the golden age of our planet, where humans live for long periods of time, and they spent a lot of time taking psychedelics. And this is the origin story of where all these come from, because what they were consuming, they called it SOMA. SOMA was like this catch-all name for all psychedelics on the planet.
Interesting.
Use this to reach these ecstatic states and connect with the divine, go into the spirit world and divine all the knowledge that they would use to create civilization. Now, as they start to migrate and move around the planet, the soma runs out because it doesn't obviously grow everywhere, as most things don't grow everywhere. And that's when they freak out because they're so addicted to the soma. So in order to come off the soma, God Indra, the head of all the gods, goes, we must connect with the soma within. We've got to learn how to produce soma within. And they discovered that the breathing, the breath work, is the one thing that runs on autopilot, but also we have conscious control over, which is why it's the code for unlocking the autonomic nervous system. And through the autonomic nervous system, through the pathways of the parasympathetic, sympathetic, we have the ability to create any of the substances that exist in nature, any of the drugs in nature, medicines that influence our autonomic nervous system. I mean, for many years, we've been educated that we have no power over the autonomic nervous system. We know now that that's not true. There's many people over time have disproved this. In recent times was Wim Hof. The Iceman is a good friend of mine. Before that, in the 70s, a guy called Swami Rama, who did the same thing, came over from India. Yogananda did a few experiments. I healed myself from chronic illness using the same techniques. So I've helped many other people do that. So I have a lot of anecdotal evidence that we can tap in to autonomic nervous system, switch off stress, influence our immune system, increase our strength, resilience to stress. And we can all do it by tapping into the breathing. And the breathing is the method. So pranayama was one of the main things I always tell people to start with, to start learning how to tap into the physiology.
I love it. And you're speaking my love language, with neurology and breath work and so much. Losing my train of thought. Should have did some more breathing, but but one of the things where, it's tapping in. How does, for someone like myself, I've done ayahuasca before. And it was something that I wanted to do just to, I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. Then afterwards, I was like, even during the process, I'm like, what did I do? I made a mistake. But great experience for myself. But then I started to see, how can I find that connection? I've heard Deepak Chopra say what you're just saying right now about, like, you have the pharmacy within you and you can unleash it at any time, right? And in my journey, it was interesting to find breathwork to be a huge tool to get me back into that space, to where I can be right there within 5-10 minutes max. And I'm like, boom, I'm crystal clear. I can see things more beyond my perspective. And that's been my journey and my experience. I know you mentioned Wim Hof and then the pranayama. Can you kind of explain a little bit? I know some people know what Wim Hof is, some people don't. Some people, the pranayama. Can you just explain maybe the difference between the two and that process?
Yeah, I mean, Wim's a good friend of mine. He spent a lot of time training with all kinds of gurus in India and Tibet and other places around the world. And then he went really deep into the cold immersion techniques, and he developed these breathing techniques based on the inspiration from all these schools that he studied from, as a way to generate internal body heat and survive in the cold. The side effect of that is that it has these positive enhancing effects on the body. Now, we have a lot in common because I went through this pranayama school, and I mean, it's all the same kind of mechanisms. You can, in pranayama, there are techniques for generating internal heat, turning off stress. In pranayama, though, is like a school of different breathing techniques. It's like a pharmacy of different breathing techniques for different purposes. So generating heat is one of them. Influence your immune system, getting into ecstatic states. There's all different techniques. Meditation, how to go into stillness so you can reprogram your subconscious mind, and many different purposes. Cooling the body down is another one. So pranayama is more holistic selection of different breathing techniques. So I went down that tradition, and I discovered the breathing techniques are super powerful for influencing your immune system and reprogramming it and getting yourself into optimum health states. But we share a lot of things in common. A lot of it, the foundation of it is these hormetic stress response influences. So ice, cold therapy, that's a hormetic stress inducer. So through the cold shock, your body adapts and becomes stronger. And by going into an unnatural, or it's an extreme force of nature, your body adapts, becomes stronger. So you can get the same effect by going into sauna. So the Russians have been doing this for many, many years, where they go into the sauna. They have intense heat, dry heat saunas, not those wimpy infrared saunas. We're talking about full power, like 100 degrees, 90 to 100 degrees, full on dry heat saunas. And then you jump into the ice bath afterwards and you rotate it. This is that was another thing that I did a lot. I didn't jump into the ice, but we had very cold plunge pools in the spa. When I was healing myself, I had a lot of benefit from the rotation between sauna and cold, and then doing breathing techniques in the sauna. So the breathing techniques I've developed in SOMA actually help you to rebalance and harmonize the physiology so that you can stay in cold, you can stay in hot for long periods of time. You can not get scared and fearful. And also the breath is actually it's a model for all the other harmonious functions in your body. So every single process in your body has a rhythm to it. So your infradian rhythm, ultradian rhythm, circadian rhythm, things like your wake-sleep cycle, your hormones being produced, your immune system, digestive system, metabolic system, they all have cycles. Okay, so these rhythms, these biorhythms, are all subservient to the rhythm of breath. So just through rhythmic breathing, you can actually harmonize all the functions in your body. And so there's some of the differences. I'm all about rhythm and getting into these flow states with rhythmic breathing. And WIMS is very much about this cold immersion, going against the forces of nature, extreme natural kind of hormetic stress influences. And mine's like a day-to-day kind of like harmonizing the nervous system. But I wouldn't say it's mine or his. It's all originally comes from these ancient techniques, thousands and thousands of years ago, that people have known, and we're just recycling consciousness now.
It's amazing how they knew this stuff back then compared to now.
Yeah, but you can imagine back then they didn't have distractions like iPads and internet and things like that. They just had their body and they had nature, and so they had to survive in extreme conditions. So through that process of trying to survive in crazy conditions, I imagine in the summer going to a mountainous area, where it's all like lush rainforest, and then suddenly the winter comes and boom, like Siberia or something like that. It's where there's a strong culture of shamanism, the Siberian shamans. Okay, these were like probably the early adopters of these techniques, or the creators of these techniques, because they had to do that. They had to go from extreme like summers to extreme winters where it's like sub-zero, like minus 20, 30 degrees. So through this like natural process of trying to survive in nature, they adapted and they created techniques to help them do that. The side effect of that is it has a positive effect on your body. So now we can borrow these techniques and use them in our day-to-day life to get even better benefits, So yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And, one of the things that I appreciate you sharing, I'm going to definitely check out, because one of the goals I have this year is to be in 50-degree water for 45 minutes. And
Ah,
right now I can get to about 15, 16 minutes. And I've heard of
what is that in centigrade?
what instead of, oh, so let's see, 50. Hold on, I'm going to pull up my good old calculator online here.
Hmm.
Celsius, Fahrenheit. I think it's 50 is going to be about 12 to, let me see, 50 would be 10 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so you want to go into 10 degrees for 45 minutes.
Yep, that's my goal. And I've heard of a Buddhist, they do a specific type of breath work. I forgot the name. It starts with a T.
Tumo.
Yes, exactly. What was interesting, I was talking to a patient about it because they do a lot of cryotherapy and all that. They follow Wim Hof a lot. And I told them, I said, I was in it and I didn't get cold. My forearms only got cold. And I would do a certain breath. I didn't know what I was doing, but my background's in energy medicine. So I know how to move my energy and my chi around. And so I was just moving it to my arms. And then all of a sudden it was warm again and I was fine. And then I get into my breath again, and all of a sudden I feel it in the form, because only my forearms and my hands. But I'll have to check this all out. It's pretty cool stuff because that's one of the things that Wim Hof did, where he did the endotoxin and he used his breath to boost his immune system. And I was kind of like, my chiropractic background's like, okay, breath work, it stimulates vagus nerve. That's the brake pedal system, I call it in my office. It's the parasympathetic, and that's where the immune system resides and builds. So I'm like, I get that, but I'm like, there's got to be something that you can do specifically, though. And you kind of answered my question for me. So appreciate that.
Yeah. There's different techniques for different purposes. Yeah.
No, I love it. And so then, for an individual who's just, go, especially out here in the West, I do have listeners in the UK also too. So for them also, and I'm assuming things are, I always say the Americanization of things is kind of, the has spread globally on things. The go, the do, to a certain degree. What would you recommend for someone to start with breath work? Is it just diving in? Let's talk about the SOMA, you do, the breath and all that. And let's be able to tie that all in together.
Well, yeah, I'm biased, so I would recommend check out somabreath.com, because that's actually a school of mind-body techniques, beginning with the breath and the connection of the breath to the body. So I would go to the ancient techniques, because they developed them out of the necessity to be able to influence the body. So they did it over thousands of years. So they really fine-tuned these techniques and made them simple. There's a lot of religion and dogma that's shrouded some of these in mystery. So if you can understand things like yoga and pranayama and things like that, and it doesn't affect your religious background, then I would say, go to a yoga class to begin, tapping into your physiology and using asana. But if you find a really good one, you can really start to learn about pranayama and its relationship with the body, and Ayurveda for the lifestyle tools in terms of your diet, nutrition, herbs. And really, my bias is very much towards the Indian tradition, because that's where I'm from, my origins. But the Chinese had amazing wisdom as well, the Tibetans as well in Taoism. But really, pretty much, if you study yoga, pranayama, and Ayurveda, you can't go wrong. That's a very, very complete kind of holistic science, and it has a lot of what you need in there. As I'll say, the only problem with it is that it's these days it's been convoluted a lot with dogma. It's been changed, manipulated. So, because I became a major strong believer in this. My Swami is actually very non-dogmatic and non-religious. So she really gave me an eye-opener. But I was still wanting more kind of evidence to back up some of these techniques. So I then was fortunate. I met a guy who has written an amazing book on the medical application of these techniques and the way yoga influences the body, with a very, very strong scientific background, called Dr. Prakash Maush. He's a good friend of mine. He's involved with SOMA as well. And so what I did was I took his trained with him. He doesn't have many students, but he runs a clinic up near the Himalayas, where he heals patients with yoga, pranayama, in favor of allopathic medicine. He's actually a medically trained doctor, amazing guy, a yogi. And I trained with him, and he taught me some of these techniques in a very, very scientific way, no dogma, no religion. And that was a really big turning point in my knowledge, my wisdom. And then I put everything I've experienced, everything I've learned from all these amazing masters into a very simple system, SOMA Breath, which also is powered by the music, the brainwave music, therapeutic music I created, which is a soundtrack to making all these techniques more fun. Yeah, so that's where I recommend.
Awesome. And do you have like a morning ritual that you do that incorporates breath work on the daily basis, or something that you do from time to time based on where you are? Because it's, there's a lot, as with the pranayama, and you were saying it's more of holistic, like you can do this for this, you can do that for that, depending on what where you are and what you need. Do you have a certain practice that you do?
Yeah. We have a morning ritual that we teach in SOMA, actually, which combines dance movement with breath, with chanting using the actual sacred chant of Om, which is actually 3 syllables, Ah, U, as a way to actually wake up the hormonal centers in the sex, the digestive glands, to your heart, up to your mind, as a way for you to transmute sexual life force energy around your body at the beginning of the day, help you manifest, meditate, track the things that you really want, and combining gratitude, the emotion of gratitude, because gratitude is the foundation for feeling good all the time. If you can practice gratitude, daily gratitude, right from the start of the day. And the way we use breathwork is it's a hypnotic process where you're using the power of intention, emotion, to raise your vibrational energy. I say love stands for level of vibrational energy. So the higher the love, the more ecstatic the states of passion and joy. And through breathing techniques combined with music and the intention of gratitude, you can actually raise up your vibration. You can produce more oxytocin, dopamine. And actually what this creates is a perfect brain chemistry for neurogenesis. So through this, the power of intention, meditation, is magnified. So this is the perfect formula: is oxytocin, movement, visualization, intention, emotion, and breathing, with rhythmic breathing, to manifest. If you want to manifest things, and I'm talking in a scientific way, actually tune your brain, your filter, because ultimately your life is the representation of your neurological imprints that create the filters of your reality. So you only can see the portion of reality that you're tuned into seeing. And this filter is based on all of these imprints that have happened at an early age in your life. Okay, so from the years 0 to 7, you're conditioned. And these conditioned imprints actually changes your neurological hard disk. And this dictates quite often the reality you're going to attract. But if you can use breathing techniques with movement, with rhythm, you can actually tap into this hard disk and reprogram it like a software programmer, creating a whole new operating system. And with daily practice, you can actually start to manifest what you really want, because what you're doing is you're going right into the cause, the point of where thought comes from, which is your physiology. And it's from thoughts that come decisions, and it's from the decisions from your inner world and those right decisions that dictates the actions that lead to results in your life. So if you really want to change your results, stop worrying about your strategy. Your strategy, yes, is important, but if you've got the perfect strategy, right, then the reason why you're not getting successful is because you haven't got the perfect physiology. Because you're not making the right decisions along the way. So you need to work on the level of physiology. And our SOMA coaches help you on the level of your physiology to make those results you want in life. Because ultimately, what do we want? We want results. Okay, that's what we want. So if you can enhance that so that you can get the best results, then that's what I've created as a perfect system. And one of those results, maybe you need to cure yourself of chronic illness. So here you can use the same technique. You can use our lifestyle changes and get back to full health. However, if you're already healthy and you want to go to the next point in your life, if you want to crush it in your business or your relationships, your career, you can use the same techniques with the same lifestyle changes to optimize your health, change your physiology, and then get into those super flow states where you just start manifesting like crazy. So yeah, that's a scientific kind of description of what we do on the level of manifesting, because ultimately that's what we really want.
I love it. And this is the stuff I geek out on. So I appreciate you bringing the science behind it, because I'm just smiling over here going, yep, I love this. Keep going, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you think, I love how you brought up the 0 to 7, right? I mean, and that's the whole theta brain, right? We're in a theta state for the most part up to about 7 years old, and then it shifts over. And it's the and for people who don't know theta state, that's the programmable state of mind that it basically dictates your life, unless you different methods, breath work. I know entrainment music. I love the movement side. What about things like hypnosis, going back and reprogramming? How's that work? Or, you know, the power of that?
Well, this is what I call what our daily ritual is an active form of hypnosis. So hypnosis is just changing the story that you say to yourself, you know, over and over again. It's like going in and changing the programs, the softwares that create your operating system. And it's that operating system which is your mind. And it's that mind that creates your reality. So using hypnosis, you can actually go in there and re-imprint old imprints. And these early imprints that happen in our first few years of our life are the hardest to shift. The 0, from when you're born up until the first few years of your life are the super hard ones. The mother relationship, the father relationship, the relationship with people in the outside world. As you go and as a toddler, go and start meeting other kids your age. It's all of that dominance and alpha and beta personality archetypes that get created that actually shape who you're going to be. And these are some of the hardest things to shift. Like, for example, if you weren't nurtured enough as a baby, if you weren't breastfed for long enough, you can have a tendency for addictions like sipping hot drinks or smoking cigarettes or biting your nails and things like that, because that's actually the representation of comfort, and comfort from sucking your mother's nipple is one of the first imprints of comfort that you're going to get. So if you're not getting that from a young age, if your mother was a bit hostile, a bit stressed out for whatever reason, you could get imprinted a false sense of fear, an exaggerated sense of fear in the world, of the outside world. You can become a neophobe, somebody who hates new things, and you just need things to be predictable and safe, and you don't ever try anything new. And there's many neophobes, who just vote for the same old dumbass president every year to create the same safe reality, because that's what the president does, is he tells them everything's going to be fine, you're going to have this and that and that, and that's basically how politics runs a lot, is speaking to these early imprints that deal with survival and that they're going to save you. And so unless you find a way to reprogram, you're just going to have the same predictable life. And that's what that's the oldest philosophy of all, is that are we just robots operating without any free will, unconsciously in a sleeping trance, or are we humans that have the ability to wake up and live reality that we choose? Now, the Buddhists say that really we are just robots in a sleeping trance, and that we have to just surrender to the programming and just forgive ourselves for all the wrongdoings that we ever do, because ultimately we're just robots. And the Christians are like, no, actually it's all your fault, and that you have a choice whether you go to heaven and hell, and you have to follow our rules, otherwise you're going to go to hell. So then there's a middle ground, which is through Tantra, which is actually we're sleeping robots with programs, but these happen in our early years, and we have the ability to reprogram if we wake up. And And the way to do that is using the process of yoga, philosophy, and tantra techniques to reprogram the imprints. And through that, we can then have a sense of free will. We may not really have a sense of free will, but a true sense of free will, but we can have more of a sense of free will. And that's the ultimate goal of SOMA, is to create a sense of real free will so that you can become more in control of your own life. I mean, there's certain things you're never going to be able to control. You never can control the instance when you step across the road and get run over by a bus, and you never know when your heart's going to suddenly stop. You just don't know. It's just one of those things. So, but with Tantra, we can actually have a bit more of a control by tapping into physiology and re-imprinting. And what the yogis try to do through meditation and things like yoga nidra is give people a tool, a system of reprogramming, and what they call it meta reprogramming, re-imprinting these early imprints. Robert Anton Wilson does a lot of this. Timothy Leary talks a lot about it in the 8 circuit model of consciousness, and there's a book called Prometheus Rising, really worth reading on all of this. And what I've done with SOMA is create this unbelievably powerful self-hypnotic tool, because with active meditation, by using the whole body, by using the power of intention, visualization, we can actually program the DNA through epigenetic ideas, the habits that imprint are hardwired into us, these early meta programs, we can re-imprint them. And the way to do that, as I said, is you got to raise the emotion. You got to change your emotional state massively. And through breathing techniques, you can raise your vibration. Through dance, you can raise your vibration, get into these ecstatic states. And then when you plant intention in that state is when you create re-imprinting. So you can actually change old habits. You can give up bad habits that aren't serving you anymore. You can heal trauma. You can go in and actually reprogram past life trauma. You can actually re-imprint positive emotions and tune in more into the things that you want to attract in your life. The same process. So really what the SOMA ritual is a self-hypnosis technique, but through active process. So there's other hypnotic techniques that take you into regression. It takes you into a very deep theta state where you go into the past and you visualize the past and you make peace with the past. They can take a long time. But with SOMA, my idea is through this active meditation is that we can actually do it very quickly, have a daily ritual where we're constantly pumping ourselves with good feelings, good neurotransmitters, raising endorphins and re-imprinting with positive habits every day, every single day from the moment we get up.
I love that.
And you can do it yourself. You don't need to go and see a therapist.
Well, it's so true. I mean, it's you're looking at it from, it's a programming state, and we know the brain is plastic, and a lot of the things you're mentioning, I mean, even quantum physics is proving that. I always tell people you are, in my first book I wrote, I talk about how your source energy that's the true essence of who you are, and source energy is a creator that gives life to things. And so but I always tell people, because I have some people ask me when they read the book, they're like, yeah, but you make it seem like you're in full control of your life. And I go, well, you are in all aspects, but it's interesting though, because I always say there's something called spiritual contract. And you kind of brought that up in a sense where I don't know if I take the step off the street, I'm gonna get hit by a bus. I don't know, tomorrow my heart may stop. And that's the things we're out of control. But at the same token, from a spiritual side, we are in control because we chose that. Like, this is when my exit strategy is going to be, if that. But it's one of those things that where, from what I'm grasping and understanding, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're really teaching people just to retune back into them. And it's one of these quotes that come that it's been a quote that's been very big for me in my life. And it's just, I just love this quote. It just means everything, which is by Lao Tzu. It states, mastering others is strength, but mastering yourself is true power. And yes. Would you agree that all the work that you just shared right here, all the stuff you're doing, the brain entrainment, the dance, the breath work and yoga and all that is really creating a path for someone to master themselves?
Yes, self-mastery. And through getting into a habit of, mastering a practice, it gives you like good habits for mastering any practice, because it's through mastery of a couple of things. You don't need to be a master of everything, just a couple of things, like where you can really become like the best that you can possibly be. Then you're liberated, then you break free, then you become of service to people, and people want you, they want to be around you, and then you can never go wrong in life. So yeah.
I love that. So Niraj, how can people get connected with you about what all you're doing, what you're up to, social media, all that stuff? How they get what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So the best way is I've got an Instagram, _renegade_pharmacist. We have a website, somabreath.com, where you can sign up for a webinar, and you can actually do our regular weekly Sunday meditations. You can also learn all about these techniques in more depth, more science, and learn how to do cool things like raise your heart rate and lower your heart rate at will using these ancient techniques for tapping into your autonomic nervous system. And I also have a Facebook community, SOMA Breath. Look it up. It's a closed group, but you can go on there and you can get some more free stuff, lots of tutorials. And we have a big community now growing, full of people who are like-minded, all wanted to master themselves, get the best out of life. And yeah, so that's the best place to start.
Awesome. Listeners, definitely get in touch with this group. I know I'm going to. Niraj, it was a breath of fresh air to interview with you and geek out on some of the science here. I appreciate you taking time.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. For past shows, please visit www.empoweryourreality.com. I hope this show inspired you and added to your life to help you on the journey to rediscover who you really are. To connect with us on Facebook, please visit www.facebook.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. Check us out on Twitter. The handle is Dr. Vic21. Follow us on Instagram, www.instagram.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. If you were inspired by the podcast, pay it forward by sharing it with someone who you know can benefit from it. Thank you again for listening to the Mindful Experiment podcast, sharing paths to help you rediscover your infinite potential.